The last 2 months, you know, of this remote work and this virtual workplace have, I think, been, you know, challenging for everyone. And, you know, search is no different than that. And of course, you know, we're also very proud of all of these accomplishments and these things that we have figured out and these opportunities that we've had for some creativity and considering different aspects of our work. And again, that reminder of the resiliency of our clients and the trajectory that we have going forward. So we're going to stop there and open it up to any questions. So if you have a question, please put it in the chat box.
Yeah, I haven't seen any questions yet. So feel free to unmute yourself. You know, so we have about 10 minutes if you'd like to even just share your comments. Bill Burke and I were having a private little message back and forth about how the clarity of Phoebe's messaging about, yeah, the complexities and how methodical we're trying to be.
Shelley asked, what do you need from us? So, I mean, the overwhelming support already coming from the community. I wish if I could, I would like unclip my camera and walk you out to our balcony that looks down into the first floor. There's been a lot of generosity coming in from the community in terms of supplies and cleaning products, masks, gloves, the PPE that we need, food, cleaning products, everything. Please continue to do that. There's an Amazon wish list I know that has been fulfilled. We've been getting shipments almost daily. It's been incredibly helpful to our clients. Tao, do you want to?
Yeah, you know, I think continuing to try to keep our issue on top of mind for others. I know in these moments of crisis, whether it was a hurricane or here we are, I think people are more in tune to the needs of the poor and those without. And so having them connect to search or our partners' work through Facebook, through our website, so that they can continue to be involved or connected would be lovely. You know, because right now with our economy being challenged, the energy sector and the longevity of that recovery, we think it's going to take a little longer. We need more and more people to really connect to us, even if they don't have great means to give. You know, every little bit counts. So it's really just about building up the knowledge and understanding and giving when they can.
Okay, so we've got some questions coming in here. So Jonathan, why don't you take this one? What is our current housing referral process, and has it changed from the COVID process?
Sure.
Pre-COVID.
Yeah. Overall, the process is the same. It's just the way that we're working the process that's changed a little bit since we are working remotely for the most part. What we're doing differently now is, instead of waiting for a unit of housing to become available to get a referral and then taking the time to do the detective work at that point to locate the individual that we've been referred, we're working on contacting folks ahead of time. So anyone who's high up on the wait list, we are reaching out and trying to get their case ready. And so by the time a unit does become available, we're already connected, we already have got most of the things we need, and we can roll forward. Eliminates a lot of the challenges of running around and trying to gather paperwork when really we're trying to work remotely.
Yeah, the coordinated access system is still up and running. People can be assessed either by outreach team members or at any of the drop-in centers. Some of the hours have changed a little bit, and of course the accessibility, you know, making sure that it's safe to conduct housing assessments, but it's all still happening. Okay, I saw another question. Phoebe, can you answer this one? Do you anticipate a new wave of homelessness as eviction processes proceed?
I hope not. At the same time, I mean, I think Tao was talking about this a little bit, is anytime there's a community crisis, it hits the most vulnerable the hardest, right? So I think even as we're trying our best to help our clients stay afloat, it's kind of like there's another cohort, right, of folks who are just barely making it, not necessarily in our homeless service system yet, but had already been struggling to pay rent and whatnot. So I am worried. I think we anticipate there might be, especially after the eviction moratoriums are lifted, there might be some of those folks who then hit the streets or end up hitting our system. And we saw that with previous hurricanes. We anticipate there might be some of that with COVID.
Yeah, I think every conversation I've been a part of in the community is that we fully do expect homelessness to rise after this. I'm not sure that anybody can pinpoint exactly by how much, right? And when that wave will start to hit. We saw, an increase after Harvey. And I think we can probably anticipate it here. The good news is that CARES relief and that CARES money is coming into the community, and we're already in a lot of conversation about preparing to use those dollars and get them moving very quickly. I think we're, keeping in mind the anticipation that the population will grow and what we can do. So I know we're hoping to see increases in permanent supportive housing, increases in rapid rehousing, different things that will absolutely help make sure that people don't fall into our system for too long. Because as people fall into the homeless service system, it becomes increasingly harder and harder to get them out the longer they stay.
I think Laurel asked if we could repeat what's the total number of homeless people in the Houston area. So, so there's two numbers that we talk about. One is the point in time, which is the annual count of people in shelters or on the street on a given day. So at the end of January is when they do that. And so the last count we have that's published is the 2019 number, and that's about 3,500. They have not yet released the 2020 number. I know that they're trying to do some data cleanup there. But on an annual basis, what they keep track of also are how many people access our homeless service database system. And so over the course of a year, I know that number has gotten to be quite big. I want to say it's like in the 50,000. Is it that high? Alexis, do you?
I'm looking right now on the coalition's website. So they're saying by the numbers, 29,874 unique people accessed homeless assistance in 2019.
Okay, so about 30,000. Mm-hmm. So that may be, just a little bit of help from perhaps rental assistance. So it can be very short term, little bit of help. So I think that's going to be the harder measure, and we shall see in the next few months to a year what really it's going to mean here. Yeah. So another question here is, how would we react about the spike to homelessness? That's what we're trying to get in front of. In fact, Alexis and I were just on a 2-hour Zoom meeting with our Coalition for the Homeless group and more. It's a big community effort at this point to really get in front of or address as quickly as possible the continued movement of people off the street, the anticipation of the need for people who need short-term assistance, who have lost their home. So really, our sector is really still trying to address the folks that really will be homeless or would be homeless if not for the interventions that we put in place, versus others who might be able to figure it out, get it work quickly and move on. So yes, there's a lot of money that's come into our community to try to address this, and they're looking at how do we keep people, get rid of these encampments as quickly as possible, put them into homes, keep them housed, as Phoebe stressed over and over again. Those that really just need a year's worth of rent so that they can get their life back in order. And then those that really, okay, they end up losing their home, but is there a short-term financial infusion that can help them get back on their feet without much more deeper experience of homelessness? That's the last thing we want.
So we're getting a few more questions. We've got some private ones. So someone asked, what's the intake process for Search? So most of Search's programs and referrals really do come either through our outreach efforts, which means that we're finding and engaging with individuals on the street. And our housing programs all receive referrals from the coordinated access system. So individuals can get assessed down at the Beacon drop-in center, or they can be assessed on outreach. Someone asked if you can give our phone number to a homeless person. Absolutely, please just give them the main number. Right now, the phone line is being managed, and we're trying to respond to individuals and help triage and provide information. We're also referring a lot of people to call 211, which is a great source of information, especially for people who maybe are not necessarily homeless but concerned about becoming homeless. 211 is a great resource for that. A question about seeing new people on the streets coming to Houston from other states. It's an excellent question. In fact, our outreach team will be joining some other outreach teams next week down in the downtown region to survey groups of people where we've seen kind of an increase, or at least a perception of increase, of individuals out on the street, and we're curious if it is related to COVID. We don't specifically know for sure, so we'll learn more. I don't think we have anything really definitive yet about the increase from other states. And one question about the stats on the rate of housing recidivism due to substance use specifically. So we pay really close attention to housing recidivism rates. We call them positive and negative exits, basically. And really that's determined in the HUD world, who's one of our major funders related to all of our housing. It's about where they exit to is really what determines whether it's positive or negative. So in that sense, our housing rates are very good. Most people exit positively because we're able to kind of find a solution to transition them to something else so they don't end up back on the street. Negative outcomes would be things related to incarceration, returning to a shelter, returning to the street. And then of course there's some exits like death that are considered neutral. So one of the projects that we're really looking at over the next year is we want to dig more deeply into what those exits actually are and what's causing them. It might be considered a positive exit to our funder, right? But we wouldn't necessarily consider someone being evicted a positive exit. We want to know what happened that created that loss of housing, not just were we able to kind of quickly resolve it and find another place for them to go. So we don't have information or data on that just yet, but hopefully we will soon. That's a place where we're looking.
I saw one question about telemedicine for
Mm-hmm.
folks out on the street. So our partner, Healthcare for the Homeless, is the primary healthcare provider of our street population, and they have two clinics, one that's closer to Midtown and one that is co-located with the Beacon, which is right there in the heart of downtown. And so I know that partly because of this COVID, they've done more telemedicine, although they've been doing telemedicine, I know, in some of our housing sites, probably telepsychiatry. I know that was the introduction of that into our industry. But I think we are challenged by incorporating other medical providers in the mainstream system into our work. I was speaking with Frances, who is Isabel, who's the executive director or CEO of Healthcare for the Homeless, and they are the ones doing the testing of our population for COVID. And now, as they are moving away from just testing people with symptoms to other people, period, just to see, okay, are they asymptomatic and how do they need to be separated if they're staying in a shelter? She is challenged by the capacity that her team is limited by. And so, you know, really looking for other healthcare providers to be in this with us, and not really receiving a lot of great feedback yet. All right, well, one more quick question, and then so we are actually at our 1 hour, 1 o'clock, and we'll be on if for those that still want to hang on for a couple more questions, and but for those of you who can't, thank you so much for joining us, and we hope that you will join us again the next time that we do this. But yes, so Alexis, I don't know, you have a few minutes for just hang out, and please feel free to unmute yourself and talk if you would like.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, what other questions are there?
So money coming into the community to help, basically, where is it coming from?
Yeah, so the federal government is definitely pushing a lot through the state, through the city, county. So like this pool of money that I referenced earlier, this is really, actually it's a combination of the city and county. It's about $50 million that they're looking to spend over the next 2 years. The community will need private sector money. Another $9 million is what they anticipate needing from the private sector, because government dollars, our population, you know, it's HUD, Housing Urban Development, and their requirements or their kind of rules that we have to operate within. And so their rules don't allow us to pay for certain things like deposits, or some of these application fees, or some of these things that somebody would need in order to move into a home. And so they will need private funders to fill in the gaps of these things that government dollars won't pay for. Any other questions that we haven't hit?
I have another private question that came in. It says, Houston often receives homeless from other states. Do you continue to see this still happening during the pandemic? Jonathan, do you want to maybe speak to that?
Sure. Yeah, we've definitely worked with folks in our homeless community in Houston who originated in another state. We haven't seen an uptick in that. A lot of the information we hear about with folks coming from other states, in my experience, has been kind of anecdotal, that Houston, you know, has a booming housing effort. And yeah, I haven't seen any change in the number of folks coming.
Yeah, I think it'll take a little bit of time to see the ramifications after all this kind of money and these attempts to intervene play out.
Mm.
Okay. All right, I think that is it. If we missed your question, please speak up. All right, well then otherwise, you have free reign to email me, call me, and I will get your questions to our team as appropriate. Thank you so much again for joining.